Good afternoon, my student. Today, I will teach you about ethics in international business. So, in this chapter, we will learn about what is ethics, which ethical issues are most relevant to international firm, how are ethics relevant to employment practice, how ethics are relevant to human rights, how ethics relevant to environmental regulation, how ethics relevant to corruption, how are ethics relevant to moral obligation, what are ethical dilemma, why do manager behave unethically, why do manager is what are the philosophical approach to ethics, and what are utilitarians and Kantian approach to ethics, what are justice theories, how can manager make ethical decision. So basically in this slide we will study about 23rd slide. So I will teach you about 5 or 6 slides, and then you can continue by yourself. What is ethics? Suppose you have been assigned responsibility for hiring people to work in a company's new factory in Mexico, where wages are considerably lower than they are in your country, and you don't have to pay benefits. If your company is taking advantage of this situation, what should you do? Perhaps you should talk to your superiors about providing a more generous compensation package that will still be much lower than what you had paid in your home country. But you worry that this could jeopardize your new position. So you decide just to follow orders even you are not really comfortable with them. This is an example of an ethical dilemma. People involved in business run into ethical situation daily. In international business, they are often magnified because of the difference in legal system, political system, economic system, culture, and so on. Ethics refers to the accepted principle of right or wrong that govern the conduct of a person, the members of a profession, or the action of organization. Business ethics are the accepted principle of right or wrong governing the conduct of business people. An ethical strategy then is a course of action that doesn't violate this principle. Keep in mind as we discuss about ethics, there may not be no right or wrong response, and so in some cases they might raise more questions that we are actually answer. So in this slide, which ethical issues are most relevant to international firm? So we can see this question: what are the most common ethics issues for companies? We usually think of issues that involve employment practice, human rights, environmental regulation, corruption, and the moral obligation of companies. Let's talk about each of these, beginning with the employment practice. Employment practice frequently present ethical dilemmas. Suppose, as we suggested earlier, work conditions in host country are inferior to those in the home country. Which standard should you apply, the home country standard or the host country standard? Is it okay to employ a minor to work 50-hour weeks if it doesn't violate local laws? We have to supply safety gear to employees if not required by law. Nike, you know Nike, right? Nike found itself in the midst of a huge controversy in the mid-90s when it was reported that the working conditions at some of its subcontractors were poor. While neither the subcontractor nor Nike was actually breaking the law, there was strong reason to suspect that the workers were being exploited. For example, in one factory in Vietnam, women would pay just 20 cents an hour, well below the living wage of $3 per day, to work with the toxic material 6 days a week. Nike was forced by public pressure to establish a code of conduct for all of its subcontractors and implement a monitoring system to ensure that the code was followed. You might notice the similarities in this case. Today management focus on making Apple iPods. So this is the ethical dilemma for a company. You may not think much about your human right. Things like freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, so on are often taken for granted in developed countries. But it is important to remember that these freedoms are not respected in many countries. Think about the apartheid system that denied basic political right to black in South Africa, for example, or the ongoing situation in Darfur region of Western Sudan, where the Sudanese government has been accused of genocide by the US and other countries. Should companies do business in countries with restrictive regime? Some people argue that the presence of multinational companies actually help bring change to this country. Some people believe that change is occurring in China, for example, because investment by multinational are helping to raise living standard. Others, however, argue that some countries like Myanmar, which has one of the worst human rights record in the world, are so brutally repressive that no investment can be justified. In fact, many companies left the country in the mid-90s because of its dismissal human rights. Even so, some companies like Uniqlo ignore these issues as the management focus in your tax outline. So basically, ethics in international business, you can study more in the semester 3 because in the semester 3 you can study about business and ethics, more about ethics, how to manage business with the application of ethics. So basically ethics is very very important. Yeah, as I told you, as I given to you from slide 2 until slide 5. So it's basically talking about ethics. So the under the slide you can read by yourself and you can study by yourself because I have wrote in the notes. So I think it's not hard. So you can study in your house. Thank you so much.